Okay, so this video tutorial looks at the mathematical strand of real number, and more specifically, we're going to look at equivalent fractions and simplifying fractions. So basically, just quickly, we need to recap what fractions are. And fractions are a way of expressing a division. They're comprised of two sections. So up the top, you've got the numerator, and on the bottom, you've got the denominator. And just recapping the three different types of fractions, you have a proper fraction where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. You've got an improper fraction where it's flipped around the other way, so the top number is bigger than the bottom number. And you've got a mixed number where you have a fraction and you have a whole number out the front of that fraction. And just to recap, when you've got a fraction is negative, the negative sign can belong to either the numerator or the denominator. Doesn't really matter, it still makes it a negative fraction.
Okay, remember in this video tutorial we were going to focus on equivalent fractions and simplifying fractions. So I guess what we need to understand is what an equivalent fraction is. So an equivalent fraction is basically a fraction that has had a numerator and a denominator multiplied by the same number. So what I mean by that is an example of an equivalent fraction to 3/4 would be 6/8 because we've multiplied both our numbers, the numerator and the denominator, by the same multiple. Another example, okay, so an equivalent fraction to 3/4 would be 12/16 because we've actually multiplied by 4 on both sides. Alright, so essentially an equivalent fraction would be the result of multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So now let's have a look at simplifying fractions. Well, what's a simplified fraction? Well, essentially, it's a fraction that's had both the numerator and the denominator divided by the highest common factor. As an example, what's a simplified fraction of 15 and 20? Well, the highest common factor of 15 and 20 is actually 5. So what I'm going to do, my normal fraction or my original fraction is 15 over 20. I'm now going to divide both sides by 5, and that's going to give me an example, a simplified fraction of 3 over 4. Another example, let's say we've got 27 over 36. Now the highest common factor of 27 and 36 is actually 9. So I'm going to divide by 9 on both sides, and that's going to give me 3 over 4. Alright, so you can see that we've got a simplified fraction of 15 over 20 and 27 over 36 to both equal 3 over 4. Fractions don't always equal 3 over 4, so let's say we have 12 over 18. We want to simplify that. Okay, the highest common factor of 12 and 18 is actually 6. So if I divide by 6 on both sides, that gives me a simplified fraction of 2 over 3. So remember, you need to work out your highest common factor first, and then divide the numerator and the denominator by that to get your simplified fraction. Okay, now I'd like you to have a go at some practice questions. They're going to come up very soon. When they do, if you could pause the video, have a go at them. When you think you've got the right answers, we'll continue on and check them. Okay, as stated, here are the questions. If you could pause the video, that'd be great. Have a go at them, and then we'll go through them on the last slide. Alright, so let's see how you went. First question says, what's an equivalent fraction to 2/3? Well, 2/3 is actually the same as 4/6. It's also the same as 6/9. It's also the same as 8/12. Alright, it's also the same as 10/15. Okay, these are some examples. Another example you might have gone is it's the same as 20 over 30. It's also the same as 200 over 300. Right, these are all examples of an equivalent fraction to 2/3. And essentially what I've done is I've multiplied the number 2 and the number 3, so the numerator and the denominator, by the same multiplier in order to get my new fraction. Second question says, what is 20 over 30 in its lowest terms? Well, remember that the highest common factor of 20 and 30 is actually 10. So if I've got a fraction of 20 over 30, I need to divide both sides by 10, or the numerator and the denominator by 10. That's going to give me a fraction of 2 over 3.